Greetings and welcome to this, the 7th episode of Here's the Thing, 8-minute movies, some combination of those titles in some order. Hello, I am Kieran, and with me today is my special guest,
Peter. I'm not really a special guest.
Well, you are special, and I guessed you were here.
I guess we're going to have to just roll with this intro because this is like the 23rd take.
You know what they say? If you haven't got it on take 17, have a nervous breakdown.
Yes.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. You know, I have a new musical keyboard because my old one broke. The pitch bend wheel went weird, and so when I played any music, it just all sounded drunk.
I imagine that would be really useful if you were like a composer for Doctor Who. Or
possibly, yeah. If I wanted to record stuff that deliberately sounded off kilter, though, I could have easier approaches than just relying on the gradual degradation of technology.
Entropy is not the best.
Yeah, it's very authentic, though.
I'm fine, thanks. Thanks for asking. Thanks.
Look, we've been through this before. Your state of being, it becomes abundantly clear in the process of recording this, and there's no need to go through the niceties.
I think it's clear from the fact that we're 12 minutes into the recording, and the finished product will be perhaps 1.
No, go on. How are you? Explain it in detail.
Yeah, I'm all right.
All right. Okay, good. Right.
I had to carry some heavy things earlier, and because I haven't done any exercise whatsoever since 2019, my gross, flabby body has started to disintegrate.
Speaking of bodies starting to disintegrate, what are we doing here?
Oh God! I really don't want to do it.
Well, you gotta.
just before the podcast, we argued about whose turn it was to introduce the concept, and I almost successfully got away with it not being me, but it is my turn. All right. I was once crowned man who knows most about the 1982 movie The Thing, at a severe cost to social skills and other, more useful general knowledge. And Peter here is a relatively normal human being who has only seen the film perhaps once or twice. Because he hasn't managed to escape my Saw-style dungeon yet, I'm exposing him to the movie in tiny chunks, and we are going to talk about those chunks in excruciating detail until one of us cracks. Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yes, neither of us have cracked yet.
Yes, we're playing The Thing Chicken. In addition to which, as part of this exercise of driving each other psychologically over the brink, anytime one of us says the word thing, but is just using it as a verbal placeholder for a word, you get a ding. Thing equals ding. Why did we think of that 7 episodes in?
Yeah. That's a passable name for the game.
Thing equals ding.
We both have our thing dingers.
I'm liking the name Nest less now as we.
Yeah, me too. I regretted saying it as soon as I said it.
Oh, I'm going to print you a label that says Thingdinger so you can put it right on there. Oh, sorry, I'm having a breakdown. Okay, so right into the first. No, I'm not going to call it a section. I always call it a section. What's another word for section, Peter?
Segment. I think we
used segment.
Yeah.
What's another one?
Do we need to use a different one every week?
Yes.
All right. Part.
Part's a bit boring. But all right. Oh, have you got a better one in you?
Give me a second. There's one on the tip of my tongue. Chapter. Shall we go with chapter?
Yeah. All right. It's very grandiose. I like it.
Yeah.
And here we enter the first chapter of the podcast.
Yes.
Which we've definitely always called "Let's Not Talk About the Thing," a section in which I bore Peter for several minutes with something tangentially related to the thing, to bulk up the time on the podcast a little bit.
What you got for me this week, Kieran?
I'm not sure if that was too honest. I am going to talk at you about Who Goes There, the short story that the thing is based on.
All right.
The Thing is originally based on a science fiction horror novella called Who Goes There, written by American writer John W. Campbell Jr. It was first published in the August 1938 issue of Astounding Science Fiction, a popular magazine. He wrote under the pen name of Don A. Stewart. He'd actually only just recently been made editor of Astounding Science Fiction as well, so there's a thing. Thank you. The film is a mostly faithful retelling with a few differences, probably the biggest of which is the alien. In the original short story, it's got an actual form with 3 hateful burning red eyes and blue worms for hair. And also it's telepathic. It can still shape change, obviously, but that's its default form, the worm-headed alien. The crew find the spaceship, thaw it out, and it ends up assimilating a dog. They try a blood test, but it doesn't work. They figure out that you can burn the blood to see what happens. One of the crew is isolated from the rest of the others, and it turns out that he has a little surprise for them. So, the bulk of it is very similar. The movie's a bit streamlined, bringing the 37 characters at Big Magnet down to the 12 that we know at Outpost 31. And it replaces the discovery of the alien with the Norwegian base and the dog section.
Why is it called Big Magnet?
Because they're researching magnetic phenomena, which is what leads them to the UFO in the first place.
All right.
That's actually basically the start of the 1950s film as well. They're at the North Pole doing magnetic research, and the thing's spaceship crashes, and that's what leads them to it in that movie. It's actually been there a lot longer in the short story than it was in our film. They find it buried in the ice, and it's been there at least 20 million years. As we discussed the backscatter effect last time, it's only about 100,000 on Earth. Or maybe it's older, who knows? In 2018, it was found that Who Goes There was actually a shortened version of a larger novel previously written by Campbell. The expanded manuscript, which was titled Frozen Hell, was found in a box of manuscripts sent by Campbell to Harvard University. You imagine just finding... It blows my mind that they found a fuller version of it, 80 years later. And it's very interesting that it's still generating interest to this day. Like, people are making new films about it. Idiots are talking about it on podcasts.
Yeah, it's not something that had crossed my radar really until you'd introduced it to me. But now, can't stop hearing about it.
Is that because I just won't leave you alone?
Yeah, I've tried desperately to stop hearing about it, but
you can't escape.
I said, no, please don't make me record this podcast, but that's when you took one of my fingers.
Stop being a baby. It was only a little one. All right. Now we enter chapter the second.
God, hate that. Regret this chapter thing already.
Well, I'm probably not going to do musical ones for the rest of them. Which is your questions from last time. Questions from you, Peter, and the listener.
All right.
In the spirit of how this podcast is going, this isn't really a question you had at all.
Okay.
Right. But this is the chapter for those. Last time we spoke about Blair's formulae for working out how long it'll take to convert the whole Earth.
Yes.
And I wanted to work out how long it should take to convert a whole human being.
Okay.
Last time we brought up the chessboard problem, that if you put 1 grain of rice on the first square and then double it each time, eventually you end up with a massive, seemingly impossible number.
Yes.
18 quintillion grains of rice.
Yes.
So the conversion process, as we see it in the film, takes about 10 seconds to assimilate a human cell. Right?
Yeah.
But it's exponential or possibly geometric. I don't really know the difference.
Yeah.
So one cell takes over one cell, then two cells take over two more cells, and so on and so forth. All right? You with me so far?
Yeah.
I feel like I should have a whiteboard. So human beings, and this is your fact for the day, have approximately 38 trillion cells in their bodies.
Mm-hmm.
That's more than you think, right? Or less than you think. I don't know.
I don't know. I've never had a thought about how many cells there were in the human body.
I started counting once, but I lost track about halfway through.
Yeah, you lose track eventually.
So if you've got about 38 trillion cells in your body, the assimilation process is complete somewhere between the 46th and 47th square on the chessboard. So that's 46 steps to be fully assimilated.
Yeah.
Which will take about 8 minutes.
Okay.
Interestingly, in the book, Blair estimates the assimilation process will take about an hour. So, is my math completely wrong, or does he know something we don't?
I think that sounds plausible. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it was more than that, because like that, what you're doing there is making the assumption that each cell is infecting two more cells, right? That's the maths that you're using there.
Yeah.
But of course, each cell can infect more than two cells.
Oh, absolutely, yes, yes. It's
so we think that it's going to be some sort of exponential thing, but it could be faster. Yeah. No, I meant exponential thing, and the cells, the other thing.
I'm not having that. I'm not having that. That's bullshit, and you know it.
I do know it. Yeah. So yeah, no, I think 8 minutes sounds approximately right to me.
It's interesting because, as we'll see later on, someone gets infected on camera in front of everybody else, and they sure seem to be taking on thing-like qualities much quicker than I thought they would.
Yeah, but maybe that's very surface level, you know.
And I mean, as we've mentioned before, it does kind of try to overwhelm you to get as much of its body mass in you. This is if you just get one thing cell on you.
Yeah.
And I suppose it doesn't take into account if your body has any sort of defense against it whatsoever. I assume it doesn't really, because of how it's a completely alien phenomena.
Yeah.
Plus, also in the book, one of the things the thing does is shit. I thought I got away with that. I hesitated. I knew I shouldn't have hesitated. One of the chapters the thing gets away with is
you can't just insert random words. Make a nonsense of this podcast.
By the end of this, I'm going to be in an asylum or something from this anyway. Who says that words have to have meanings, Peter? So, something that the thing tries to do in the book is take over the brain as quickly as possible, so that it can do the rest of the body at its leisure. So, they notice that in the autopsies of the dogs, that the brain has been supplanted by thing tissue very quickly.
Right.
But then again, we aren't really using the book as a thing.
That's true. It's inadmissible as evidence.
Yes. It's circumstantial at best. I don't know what that means. Yes. So, 8 minutes or an hour. What do you think at home? Write in or don't. We're recording all of these in advance. You'll never be able to tell. Right. So now we move into the third chapter of our magnum opus. Let's talk about the thing. This is the part of the podcast where we talk about the thing.
Yes.
We are going to watch moments 48 to 56 of the movie. I mean, they're minutes. I don't know why I called them moments. I think I might have destroyed the language center of my brain, Peter. Like, words don't mean anything to me anymore.
It would be much harder to segment up the movie if we were just doing it in 8 moments at a time.
8 arbitrary moments.
Was that a moment? Who can say?
I think I might possibly be the first person who's decided to record a podcast which has then given them aphasia. I do so look forward to being patient zero. Right, briefly returning to the real world and the point of all of this noise making. what usually happens at this point is we go over what you thought would have happened next.
Yes.
What I have written down here of what you thought is Bennings is doing a shriek, and then they are going to set him on fire, possibly with the flamethrower, possibly with gasoline. What actually happened, Peter?
So he emits a big shriek. That
He does do a
happened.
shriek.
And then was set on fire with gasoline, in fact. And then later with a flamethrower.
Yeah, well, they double down.
So both things sort of happen.
Yes. The next thing that we ask is, who do you think is infected? And you said Norris, and possibly not that contentiously, Bennings.
Yes. I mean, I think he's infected. It does also look a little bit like in the shot that we start on that he's just been caught running off with all the pepperamis.
No, you guys, I was just holding these tree branches.
Yeah.
Who's not infected? We've got Blair. We think he's been exposed, but he's safe right now.
Yeah.
Fuchs, Windows, Knowles, and Clark. Everybody else is firmly in the perhaps section.
Yeah.
I'm glad I managed to make it through that without saying a hard maybe, which is a really weird phrase that I've been trying to get away from. All right. Well, it's time for me and Peter to settle in and watch moments 48 to 56. Consult your moment tracking card at home to know precisely when those are. Again, we must strongly remind you to not watch the movie in this fashion at all. Why would you do that? So how we usually do this is I am going to read out a bulleted list of things. A bulleted list of action points from the film, summarizing 20 or 30 seconds of action. And if you, Peter, or I, not Peter, have anything to say about them, we will say it with our mouths at that time. Yes.
That all makes sense.
It does. I'm glad it does. I need help. The Bennings thing emits a terrible howl.
Yes, we knew this was coming. It's a very distinctive scream. What is it made of, Kieran?
Yeah, I actually have a quote here from the website that we found earlier from the producer. Bennings' roar was created by custom recording human screams and then having them individually synthesized by an audio engineer called Craig Harris. These were later combined on the mixing stage with other non-human sounds and additionally processed to give you that haunting, forever lost in hell effect.
All right. When you say forever lost in hell effect, was that a quote from the website?
Yes, it's all one quote.
All right. I just thought you might be being unusually poetic.
Yeah. Write that down in your book of tracking my descent into madness while recording this podcast.
So there's something at the end of the scream that really reminded me of the T-Rex roar in Jurassic Park. So I wonder whether there's a bit of baby elephant in this too. Who knows?
As an aside, I often wish that I could just be like a sound engineer or a Foley guy, just like standing around and you hear a door slam and you're like, oh, I like that. Do that again.
We talked about it before. It's an odd job to do, but it is quite fun. I wish I could do a bit more of it, actually, because it's fun just figuring out ways to make stuff sound like stuff.
What a joyful life it must be to take a spoonful of mayonnaise out of the jar, have a eureka moment, and come back with 7 microphones to do it again.
Yeah.
MacReady kicks over a barrel of gasoline and ignites it with a flare, burning the creature. So, that's just a rubber model of Bennings with something inside it to wobble it as it catches fire.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't really burn the actor alive, Peter.
I don't think that's what I was saying there, really. I didn't notice very much wobbling, though. I'd have to watch that again.
Later, inside, Gary argues with MacReady about Bennings. So, this is another of those scenes that was added later as a further explanation for the audience.
Right. He's seeming like he's not especially in control here, actually.
Yeah, I very much agree with you. It does seem this is the first real point where Gary just seems to have given up.
Yeah, because
He can't cope.
he seems very on top of things up until this point, even if he's like in his dressing gown or whatever, and not being very authoritative. He's like in charge, and he seems in charge. And here he just seems kind of lost.
I mean, I think we briefly discussed his backstory at some point, where he's supposed to be a military man, which is why he wears those sort of army khakis and why he carries the gun around at all times.
Yeah.
But I think he's past his prime at this point. Like, I mean, imagine if he was a commander of some sort in the past. He's on the downslope to retirement at this point, isn't he? Like, he's working at an Antarctic science base, which is hardly the he's not going to be presented with challenges like this every day.
I guess also just none of his training would have prepared him for a situation like
absolutely,
this.
Absolutely. It's something so out of his bailiwick that who knows what may happen. And it is an interesting point that MacReady starts taking the lead a lot more strongly here. So again, we've spoken about him and how he doesn't really want to be in charge, but it's sort of thrust upon him by Gary's breakdown.
Yeah.
In the short story, actually, MacReady is just second in command of the base. When it starts becoming clear that Gary is under suspicion of being a thing, all of his duties just fall to MacReady.
Right.
Who I think is a meteorologist in the short story rather than a helicopter pilot.
Okay.
Outside, the men dig a hole and put the bodies in it. MacReady burns it all with a flamethrower. From the director's commentary, Kurt Russell had a lot of fun when he was using the flamethrower on things. One time he played a prank on John Carpenter where he got the makeup team to make him look like he'd been really burned, like, and cover him in bandages. And he got the whole crew in on it except for Carpenter. And just went up to him, was like, John, I got really badly burned during that shoot. I can't work anymore. And John Carpenter apparently saw through it right away, but he was like, are they all in on it? What's going on here? He was like, I know this is fake, but I can't really go get back to work, stop screwing around, just in case he is really badly burned. The men watch it all burn. They notice Blair is missing.
I'm thinking about this burning of the thing, and just wondering what their plan is for this, because I think the safest thing, as has been demonstrated. Yeah, you're right. But I think the safest approach would be to bury it in the ice.
That's a really interesting, I was going to say thing, but I'm not going to, because you'll ding your little thing dinger. Oh God, why is that the accepted term now? Yeah, it's a really interesting point that you have made there, Peter. I think the reason they don't immediately go with refreezing it is because then they'd still have access to it. Right. Remember what Blair was saying. Well, remember what Blair is about to be saying, that a single cell of this thing will end the world.
Yeah.
So putting it on ice until you can get rid of it later seems like a great idea, but if anything gets to it in the meantime, or if any of them is already a thing, they can just pop back out for a top-up. I'm not sure that's how it works. Now that I've said it.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm just I'm just thinking that it was buried in the ice for many, many, many years, so it seems likely that it is not capable ordinarily, without help, of escaping from the ice.
Yeah, that's true. I suppose you do have to consider as well that it was probably colder when it crashed. 100 million years ago or whenever, or 100,000 years, or 20 million. But freezing it does seem like a way at least of stopping it, rather than I mean, setting it on fire does work, but you really do have to burn absolutely every last cell, which sort of strongly suggests it doesn't really work. I mean, they burn all that stuff, but they know for a fact at this point that burning it doesn't stop it, because the Norwegians burned them, and look what happened to poor Bennings.
Yes.
Yeah. Dissolving them in acid also seems like an interesting technique, and that will come up very, very, very briefly soon. Not in this episode, but soon.
Okay.
Fuchs talks to Macready. He can't find Blair. So, did you notice the sort of deep blue lighting on everything here? These are airport markers that they shipped all the way up there to light the set with.
All right.
Yeah, it's Dean Cundy, the cinematographer again, but really, it's a really good effect. You sort of feel cold, even though it's just a film.
Yeah, it's good use of lighting, except if you're watching that print that we watched at the Prince Charles Cinema.
Oh, that's a deep cut that will require explaining.
I think we explained it a few podcasts ago. That
maybe
we
did. Yeah, we went to see it, and it's the only 70mm print left, and because it's not been stored properly and it's almost 40 years old, it's gone orange.
Yeah.
It's still surprisingly watchable, though. It's just every time they come outside, you're like, why is Antarctica pink? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Macready notices Blair running into the base near the helicopters. Now, when we were watching this, I asked you to keep an eye on Blair at this point. Now, do you have anything that you noticed? Yes, very good.
Well, I noticed that. I noticed that you just said that.
Very good. Yes.
Apart from that, we don't really see his face, and he's wearing a jacket that later he is not wearing, at least. We don't really know for sure that whoever runs in definitely is Blair. It sort of makes sense that it's Blair, and never denies that, but it might not be.
Do you want to know the sad, mundane, prosaic reason why it doesn't look exactly like Blair?
Is it because it's a different actor?
That's correct. It's not Wilford Brimley. Because of his tight scheduling conflicts, he wasn't able to go to any of the on-location filming. So anytime you see Blair outside, he's heavily disguised, so it's a different actor playing him.
Right, okay.
Yeah, that's why it's never Blair outside.
Because I was thinking about this a little bit, and I was thinking, well, if it's not Blair, then that implies that it's someone who is the Thing, maybe. But what would the Thing have to gain from breaking the helicopter?
Yes, it doesn't make any sense from the Thing's point of view, and but it is a nicely paranoid thing that it may not be who you think it is. Yes, all right, but it's literally not Wilford Brimley because he couldn't carve out the weeks to travel up to British Columbia to film this. So
yeah,
but you only ever see Blair inside. Anytime you see someone else see him outside, it's just somebody else dressed up like him.
Yeah, but because of all of that, I'm prepared to kind of take it at face value, and it is Blair, and it is supposed to be Blair.
That's where I would go with it as well. Yeah. Macready inspects the helicopters and finds them smashed. I pointed out the little flashlight that he finds to you as well, and that's just because in the director's commentary, John Carpenter and Kurt Russell have a little mini breakdown about why is the flashlight there, just purely so that he can see this. That's the only reason it's there, so he can light up the inside of the helicopter and see everything is smashed.
I don't know, you don't really question it. Sometimes there are flashlights.
Sometimes there are flashlights, exactly. Yeah. Looking back on it now, like he does a little a flashlight look as he picks it up, and it's what an amazing random happenstance.
Yeah, really put all of his years of acting experience into noticing that flashlight.
I went to RADA. Probably didn't go to RADA.
No.
Oh dear. He actually got an Oscar for noticing the flashlight. Flashlight actually got Best Supporting Actor.
I'm actually surprised though that he didn't hear more of the helicopter smashing.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's just a little tinkle, but when you look inside the helicopter, it is ruined.
It is very ruined. Yeah, it's like there's been a lot of work done on that. It looks like that would take more than a couple of seconds to achieve.
Yeah. it's not the inside of a real helicopter when he opens it. Like, he's approaching a perfectly good helicopter on the ground. They open it and it cuts to a set where they've got a much larger model of a helicopter all smashed up on the inside.
Nice.
Because helicopters are expensive and you don't want to smash them.
Yeah, it'd be good if they were just like, Wilford Brimley, just go to town on this real helicopter.
This helicopter costs $20,000. Smash it up. Smash it up. He hears a gunshot and runs inside. Everyone is cowering near the radio room. Blair is inside with a gun. Blair is smashing up the radio equipment with an axe.
So we were talking about this a little bit before we recorded, but I feel like it makes me a very different person from Wilford Brimley. That his favourite scene to film was the autopsy one earlier, and not the one where they give him an axe and he just gets to yell loudly and smash up a bunch of electronics.
I know, right? It seems great, doesn't it? I'm calling it now, like 2021. Screw escape rooms. The new thing will be just given an axe and put in a room and told to smash stuff up.
Smash rooms.
Smash rooms.
They'd be so expensive to run, though.
Let's think about this. I mean, all you need to do is find a building that's undergoing demolition. Oh, I expect you probably have to demolish them in the right way. Maybe this is a terrible... I thought for a minute there I'd got my new business idea.
I think there's going to be some insurance issues with this idea as well.
No, it's fine. They sign a waiver and wear a hard hat. You're fine. Hey, I mean, you can get insured to operate something like Diggerland. I'm sure. I'm sure smash rooms are going to be allowable.
So presumably this could only be done in a single take because they didn't have replacements for a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say they just set up 2 cameras on Wilford Brimley and told him to fucking go for it.
Yeah.
Again, what a great job acting is sometimes. You get handed an axe and told to ruin a room full of equipment. Child says Blair has smashed up their vehicles and killed the rest of the dogs. So, again, something I pointed out to you here was Keith David's weird-looking hand. Did you notice anything weird about it?
No, I didn't really. Maybe I had the screen too small.
His hand looks kind of weird and rubbery here. And it's because, just before they did the on-set filming, he broke his hand in a car accident.
Oh.
So he's wearing a cast over his hand to stop it from moving, but they had to paint it black with like his skin tone. So it's not. So if you ever notice it in the shot, his I think it's his left hand is just massive compared to his other hand.
Or is he a thing?
That's actually one of the shots which shows it off the worst. Is whenever he's in this shot, he's trying to put his hand like in through other doorways nearby. When he runs up, he ducks behind McCready and he puts one hand on his shoulder and tucks the other hand behind him, but it pops out eventually. Blair raves about The Thing. Oh, he gets some excellent lines here. Like one of my favorite lines from this whole scene is great. Like this whole bit of the movie is great. But when he gets one of my favorite lines here, no dog can make it 1,000 miles through the snow.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't understand. That thing wanted to be us.
Now, I don't know, though. Not that he's being the most rational at the moment, but I don't know whether this line of reasoning really holds. I'm not convinced that it really needed to be humans.
But man is the warmest place to hide, Peter.
Also, and I don't remember enough about the prequel to know how they explain that actually happens. And as we've discussed before, we're not necessarily relying on the prequel either. But
it's circumstantial at best.
Yeah, it's conjecture, maybe.
Yep. Exactly circumstantial.
But what occurred to me is that are we to assume that through its time in the Norwegian base, it never became a human at all?
Oh no, it does. It does assimilate a whole bunch of people. I think it has the template of man, but if you follow the timeline of the end of the prequel through to this one, I mean, what happens is it turns into a dog and GTFOs running towards the American base, and dogs can run quite fast on snow, I guess. So it's traveling across the land. It's being pursued by people who try and shoot it. There's that whole kerfuffle we already discussed at the start of the film. And then I guess it would just give the game if it immediately turned into Mary Elizabeth Winstead right now and was like, oh, thanks, guys. I'm not a monster.
But look, I guess my point is that is no particular reason why I don't think there's a particular reason why it couldn't have made it 1,000 miles across the ice.
To answer your questions here, in the novelization of which is based on the original shooting script, so again, it includes stuff which has been taken out or whatever. They explain that during the Antarctic winter, there aren't even really any sort of skewer gulls that arrive. That's one of the reasons they wanted to burn everything. Is like they worried the gulls would turn up, eat thing matter, become things, and then fly. Right, because they can fly a very long way. And the dogs do. They do try when the thing realizes that it's not getting its own way with these people, it converts one of the dogs, leads two of the others, which are not things, on a trek across the ice to try and make it to McMurdo Station. Right. And Macready and Childs and Bennings all go on a midnight ride on snowmobiles and chase them across the ice. Yeah. And one of the things they found is that the thing dog brought the other two dogs along basically as a snack. So so it reckons it can, a single dog might not be able to make it all the way across the ice, but several dogs using other ones as sort of, portable snack reservoirs might be able to.
I guess also just thinking about what the plan is here, because if the plan is just to kill everyone and make sure they don't make it out, I mean, unless he's got a nuke in there and he can just kind of blow the whole thing to smithereens, then all that's going to happen is at some point a team is going to come and investigate, and then there's going to be a problem.
I think Blair has started to have a little breakdown.
Yes.
And another sort of deleted scene here, blah, blah, usual disclaimers apply, is that just precedently to this, he went to Gary, before he went mysteriously missing a little while ago, he went to Gary and said, we have to radio them and say nobody can come here. There's some sort of horrendous crisis here. We can't have anyone coming here. And Gary was like, nope, the second that we get radio contact, we're bringing the experts in to try and figure this out. And Blair knows that's a terrible idea because, even if you bring the smartest people in the world, this is a situation that nobody's ever had before, and they're going to fuck something up and it's going to get out.
Yeah. I mean, it's difficult to know what the good approach would be, but
I think it's hands, face, space, isn't it?
That's the one, yeah. But it brings me back to, if they can become reasonably certain about who isn't infected, then maybe the best approach would just be to bury it in the ice and make sure it stays there. I can't think of a better plan, really.
Yeah. I guess if I was in this situation, I would. I don't know, if I was like Blair, I'd want to know who was on my side. Basically, I'd want to do what he does, which is either kill everyone who isn't me, or hopefully imprison them in such a way that I can perform my tests to figure out what exactly is going on. Then let perhaps the military know, or let someone know that this facility needs to be quarantined and destroyed, basically. The Thing role-playing aside, you did ask me a little while ago what specifically he says, and I dug it all out from the script. Okay. It's interesting, actually, because the others are talking over him, and he's kind of muttering, so some of this I haven't really heard quite clearly, especially the bit at the end. So he says, if anybody interferes, I'll kill him. Just leave it here. We're going to talk. Nobody talk to nobody. Nobody gets in and out of here. Nobody. You guys think I'm crazy? Well, that's fine. Most of you don't know what's going on around here. Well, I'm damn well sure some of you do. Do you think that thing wanted to be an animal? No dogs can make it 1,000 miles through the cold. Nah, you don't understand. That thing wanted to be us. If a cell gets out, it could imitate everything on the face of the earth, and it's not going to stop. Good. Spooky.
All right.
Childs distracts Blair. I love this bit where Kurt Russell sticks his head around the door and says, no, Blair, you don't want to hurt anyone. Blair shoots him.
Yeah. Also, he tells I can't remember who he says it to, but he tells them to go and get a table.
Yeah, McCready tells Norris to go and get a card table from the rec room.
Right. Which is interesting to me because I hadn't really remembered that detail before, or much of this, to be honest. But it's interesting that that's the plan. That's like plan A, because it seems like a very improvised method of taking someone down.
I think the thing is, I mean, because obviously Gary could just shoot him, right?
Yeah.
But I think they don't want to hurt him. I think they do realize that he's, I mean, he's a friend of theirs, and aside from that, a valuable colleague at this point. Just blowing him away might not be the best idea. But he does have a gun and an axe.
Yeah. I guess it's effective, just getting a big flat thing and smushing him against the wall.
Well, I mean, I don't know how effective it is because he swings that axe clean through that table. So,
well, it embeds itself, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Blair's line here, where the delivery was like, "I'll kill you." That's like that. Maybe my favorite line of the movie, and it's Kurt Russell's favorite line as well. Like on the director's commentary, and gets to this bit, he just cracks up. Absolutely excellent. He fires at Childs 5 times, and then he throws the gun. Why does he throw the gun? Why do you always throw the gun?
He misses quite badly with all of the shots and the gun.
Yeah. I guess he probably realizes he's having better success with the axe.
Mm.
Oh, dear. Why would you throw the gun? The men rush Blair with the card table and knock him unconscious. So, we were discussing a little bit earlier about why, Wilford Brimley didn't think this was his favorite scene to film in the movie, and it's because he was rushed with 5 guys with a table. He was worried he's in his 50s. He was worried he was just going to be decimated.
Yeah.
I pointed out to you during the watch just before the recording that he looks behind himself as he's running backwards just to make sure he's not going to trip over anything.
Well, it's very subtle. I didn't pick up on
it. Clark runs to check on the dogs and finds them murdered with an axe.
Yeah, so again with this behavior is making me think that Clark is not a problem at the moment.
Yeah, he's got to be human at this point, right?
Yeah.
Also, I've got a note here just saying you really get the impression that he cares more about the dogs than he does the people at the base.
Yeah.
Yeah. 3 men take Blair outside to lock him into the tool shed. So again, it's not Blair. He's got a whole apparatus on his head so that you can't see his face.
Because I wasn't sure whether he was still supposed to be unconscious at this point or not, but then I realized that his legs were moving.
He's sort of walking. I guess it would be very awkward for them to just drag him. I don't think they even really knock him out. I just think having 5 guys kind of punch you would stun you a little bit.
Yeah.
They take him into the shed and inject him with sedatives. The injection scene here and another one later, every time they needed to inject somebody, it's Raymond Steller, their camera operator, just got injected. He said it was fine. They could just do it all the time, as much as they wanted. Some people said to John Carpenter that the injections were much harder to watch than the monster shots of this film. So a common phobia, I guess.
Yeah, I don't necessarily like watching that, but I don't feel like that affected me in any way watching that.
When I saw it, I thought, when I was with my movie analysis hat, and I was like, it must have been a stunt arm. But no, they just injected into one of their camera people. It's actually acid, I think. I assume it's just saline.
No, I've said before that I found the autopsy scenes harder to watch than the monster shots so far, and I would if I had to rank them in order, I would say autopsy is more difficult for me to watch than monster shots, but monster shots are more difficult for me to watch than that injection. That was fine.
Blair says he doesn't know who to trust.
He says it with a little smile. I guess the sedatives are kicking in.
Yeah, they just shot him full of morphine. He's going to say everything with a little smile.
He's delighted at the moment.
I love it. Blair tells McCready to watch Clark.
We think probably mistakenly then.
Well, yeah, I mean, but we have the benefit of following Clark via cutaways. So
yeah, I mean, we had earlier the reason that that Blair is particularly suspicious of Clark, so it's understandable, but he's probably barking up the wrong tree there.
Yeah, so I've got two little notes here. That one, this is really where the paranoia of the film kicks into high gear. So from this point on, like, Blair's telling MacReady not to trust Clark. MacReady doesn't know whether he can trust Blair or Clark, and it's just going to snowball from here.
Yeah.
But also, to us, it's pretty clear that Clark is innocent.
Yeah.
But there's sort of a vestigial touch of an earlier script here, where Clark, like, they were trying to throw more suspicion on him. And I think we discussed it last time about how Bennings' death in the theatrical version of the film is, he gets thingized in that tiny room, and then the others flamethrower him, and they're like, so it can turn over people. In one of the original shooting scripts, he was just found murdered, in the kennel, and that was supposed to throw like additional suspicion upon Clark.
Okay.
But that they decided not to use that take in the end because, it wasn't as interesting as having him become a thing.
Yeah.
All right. So that's all of moments 48 to 56. They're moments now. We're sticking with it. So we move into the second to last chapter of this podcast. I'm really pleased I got through this without mentioning podcast meat at all. I want like a sticker or something. I am going to ask you some questions, Peter.
All right.
What happens next?
What happens next? Okay, so where did we leave off?
I think this is going to be a tough one for you. So MacReady and Blair are in the tool shed, and Blair has just told him, I don't know who to trust. Don't trust Clark. He says it better than that. I'm not an actor.
Yeah, no, it is a very tough one for me. I don't remember what happens next. I think it feels to me like all of this stuff has just happened. They're probably going to meet back up in the base, and there's going to be some sort of argument. That's about as accurate as I can get. That's all. That's all I'm going to go with. They're going to get back into the base, and there's going to be some kind of argument.
They return to the base, and there is some sort of argument.
Yeah, I can't be any more specific than that because I really don't remember exactly what happens next.
I've written it down so we can review it next time. Who's infected? I'm going to add a dead people list to this. Who's dead? And we're going to put Bennings on it.
Bennings is dead.
Bennings is dead, question mark.
I am going to say that in this whole these last 8 moments, too much has happened and too many people have been together for any change to the infection track, I think.
So it's remaining as who's infected? Definitely Norris. Who's not infected? Blair. He's been exposed, but he's safe right now. Fuchs, Windows, Knowles, and Clark, and everyone else is a maybe.
Yeah, yes, I believe Clark is not infected. I believe Blair is not infected, or at least if he has been exposed, then he's not been taken over at this point.
Even though through our scientific research, we know it takes only 8 minutes.
Yeah, I just don't think it's plausible that he would have behaved in the way that he behaves in this particular section.
What do you think of Gary? I'm going to draw the spotlight back to him a little bit here.
Well, there's a whole question around... no, he's not infected. I know he's not infected, actually.
All right.
I know he's not infected because I remember the point in the film later on where he gets infected. Yeah.
You using your memory of future events is cheating. Fucking precog.
I'm allowed to do that. If I remember a thing, then... and I'm using a thing in the sense of the thing. If I remember a thing occurring... No!
If I remember a capital T thing occurring...
Yeah, then I'm allowed to know that.
All right.
Yes, I remember both how he gets infected and who does it as well later on. But it's late in the film, so he's definitely safe for now.
And it is a very good scene that I rather like that one, but we will of course discuss it
Mhm.
at the appropriate hour. All right, that just remains for me to say, what are you thinking of the film so far? You've fractionally over half of it.
Yeah, it's really all coming together, like you say. The suspense is really kicking into gear now. So I think the work of these last, how many moments was it? Like 56 moments or so.
56 moments, the standard number of moments.
It's all been working up to getting the audience to this point of just being not sure who to trust. And it's been very effective in doing that.
Like I say, that sequence that we just saw is one of my favorites, where he's smashing everything up and he gets some great lines. They beat him up, lock him in a shed. Oh, it's like one of my Saturday nights.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say, I like really into the good bits of the film now. I was going to say it's all downhill from here, but that's the wrong saying. Because I was like, it's all downhill because it's getting faster and more exciting. And I was like, but that sort of also implies it's getting worse.
Yes, it does. Yeah. Well, we've discussed. Do you know what your favorite 8-minute segment is?
Oh, that's a really tough call. It's gonna be the one with the blood test in. I mean,
yeah, that's a good shout. We'll get to that later. Because we were discussing that we could, after this, just rank in order our favorite segments, and then just re-edit a version of the film in order of how much we like the segment, so that in theory we make an edit of the film where it just gets better and better as it goes through.
And then I'll send it to John Carpenter, and he'll write me another of those nice notes telling me to stop writing to him.
Yes, just like a very unhinged cut of the film.
Yeah, I wonder if we're going to do that. We might as well rank it minute by minute, right? I mean,
yeah, shot by shot,
moment by moment. I think you mean.
yeah.
All right. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure letting you listen to me go increasingly mad from being locked in one room for months and months and months on end, just like in Antarctica. So I guess we have to say goodbye now. You are called Kestrel Pie on the internet.
Yes, and that is Kestrel like the bird and pi like the irrational number. And you are called Kieran J. Walsh on things.
Because that's my name.
That is your name.
How many digits of pi do you know?
3.14155?
3.14159, that's all I've got.
I was gonna say 9 was the next one. I don't know after that. I have not spent any effort really in memorizing digits of pi.
Yeah, I don't know why I know that. I just round it down to 3, which makes mathematicians make a sort of terrible howling noise.
3 is probably too rounded. I go with 3.14, or possibly, if I'm feeling spicy, 3.142.
Well, that brings us to the end of PiCast, the podcast in which we talk about the number pi. Oh, maybe we could do that next. We can just review the number pi in 8-minute sections.
8 digits at a time.
8 digits at a time. I think that on forever. It's transcendental.
The advantage of that podcast format is that we never need to stop.
Plus, after a certain point, you're not going to know what comes next, are you? I mean,
in a way, it would be more exciting than watching The Thing, which we've both seen before, and you are extremely familiar with.
Who do you think is infected? The number 4. Oh, God, enough of this. Goodbye, listeners. Goodbye, special guest, Peter.
Time to stop talking now.
Time to stop talking now, possibly forever.